Let's get back to simpler time, back when the living was good. Hey, what's up guys? So today we're going to be building some swarm traps for bees because I am too cheap to pay a bunch of money for bees. So I'm going to keep trying to catch bee swarms, you know, either in my traps or when people call. So let's the plans that I'm using come off of horizontalhive.com. The traps will use 5 deep Langstroth frames, and then there's extra space down at the bottom, and the reason for that is just because bees like a specific size cavity when they're trying to look for a new place to live. So but that's why there's a little extra room at the bottom. But we're building these out of 1932 plywood and I think maybe 1 2x4 or something like that. So let's get to work here in the shop and see how many of these things we can get built today. Well, we got everything cut out here. We got our fronts and backs, our end walls there, bottoms are kind of tucked away over there, and then we got our tops cut. So now we got to cut a little groove in the sidewall for the frames to sit on, and then we'll be ready to assemble. So let us get the router table set up here, and we'll get rocking and rolling. Alright guys, well, we've got all our parts cut out for our swarm traps. Now it's time to put them together. Now, I will tell you guys, I did screw up on these. When I was, I put the first one together, I was looking at the measurements weren't lining up, and I was kind of confused. So I went back and looked at the plan, and everything, he had the sides and the bottoms made out of 1932 plywood. Then everything else was supposed to be 1/4 inch plywood. So these big sides here, the roof and all that was supposed to be 1/4 inch, which would significantly reduce the weight on these things. But I ended up making everything out of 1932, so I had to make some quick adjustments on the fly there with the roof and everything. Alright guys, so for the entrance on these swarm traps, well technically they're bait hives, but on the entrance, for the entrances of these, the plans call for like a slot right down here on this wall. But I like to use on my other hive, my top bar hive that I built last year, I just drilled holes and big enough so I can plug it up with a wine cork if I want to, because wine corks are easy to come by. So I think that's what I'm going to do on this hive, and I'm going to do them on the fronts here. So I've made up a little template, and that first hole there is 3 inches in from the side, 3 inches up, and then I just did them on 1-inch centers there, and I'm using a 5/8 Forstner bit to drill those holes. So let me get these marked, and then we'll drill them out, and then we'll move on to the next plate. With any of these bait hives or swarm traps, you got to have a entrance that you can seal up. That way you can close the thing up and take it back to your apiary. That way you can you ain't gonna have bees coming out at you while you're riding down the road. That's no fun, trust me, I've been there. Before I had figured out that I screwed up and used the thicker plywood, I had already cut out these for use on making the roofs. Well, needless to say, since I used thicker plywood than I was supposed to, these aren't going to work. But we're going to make it so these don't go to waste. So what I think I'm going to use these for, you can see I've already pre-drilled some holes there. I'm going to use these as handles on the sides of these things, just for making them a little bit easier to get down when you're coming down off a ladder and stuff like that. It'll be nice to have those handles to hold on to. Yes, they're going to add to the weight, but at this point, this thing's it doesn't matter. So I'm going to also put some ventilation holes in these hives, so I'm gonna incorporate those into these handles. Let me get this thing turned on, let's get these knocked out, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do after that. Now we got to get to cutting the metal and bending it for these roofs. Now, I am not a sheet metal guy. This is my first time fooling with it. It's aluminum flashing, so it ain't gonna look beautiful, but hopefully it's gonna work. So let's get this stuff cut. I'm gonna go ahead and cut all my sections to length. Then we'll trim the width down, and then we'll be able to tack them onto the roofs here. Alright guys, so let me show you how I've been doing this. I don't have all of the right tools for working with the sheet metal. Like, I don't have a hand seamer or anything like that, so I'm just kind of winging it with what I got. So I lay my aluminum out there on the roof. Get everything even and lined up. What I've been doing is kind of marking it out with pencil. And then going back around with regular pliers to get the bends started. corners. So you get your both sides kind of folded up, and then you'll take it and kind of roll it out, pinch it like that. So you'll end up with a little tab like that, and eventually that'll get folded over and tacked into the side there. I know. Don't laugh at my work. So that's kind of those corner seams there, just to give you an idea what those look like. Alright guys, we got all the roofs done. I put some little eye screws in there. Got these little 10-inch bungee cords from Rhodes yesterday. So they're just hooked in there to help hold the roof down. Now all that's left with these things is to figure out how I want to hang them from trees, and yeah, they'll be good to go. So pretty excited, guys. I cannot wait for bee season to get here and get these things hung up.